Welcome back to module 2, where we are talking all about nutrition and sustainable eating habits. So in lesson 2, we are going to talk about, or I'm sorry, lesson 3, we are going to talk about eating whole foods and balanced plates, which is another key component for eating for weight loss and optimal health. And there are so many reasons that this is really important. So it's not only about the quantity of food we eat, which we talked about in a previous lesson, but also the quality of food we eat. Both of those things, when you pair those two together, the majority of the time, remember the 80-20 rule, so it doesn't have to be all the time. We're not striving for perfection here. That is where you can really create a sustainable, healthy lifestyle where you are able to reach your goals and maintain them while feeling less restricted using both these practices and the mindset that we talked about earlier. And it can be enjoyable for you as well. And the reason is overall, you're going to feel a whole lot better when you're eating whole, clean, unprocessed foods, which we'll talk a little bit more about what those are if you're not completely sure. You are going to feel so much better physically, mentally, emotionally. You're going to be driving down inflammation, boosting your immunity, have more energy, less cravings, all of the things when you are combining all of these principles versus just focusing on calories in, calories out. So let's start off by talking about what are whole, clean, unprocessed foods. You've likely been hearing about that for the past couple of years because I feel like it's been another trending thing, just the whole idea of clean eating. But what does that really mean? And truly, all it is like almost going back to basics. Like, what are the foods that we would have had hundreds of years ago? What are foods in their absolute purest form? Like foods that don't even need a label, or if they do, they have very few things on the labels. Foods that, yeah, again, like are really in their purest forms, maybe with having a combination of like whole foods together, whether that's seeds, that's nuts, that's, maybe chicken with salt and like a fat on it, like in a package if you're not buying just chicken on its own, but it is so close to that original form of the food as possible. So I'm going to show you a few things here. If I can pull up my other screen, just give me a second here. Just so you guys can visualize this as I'm talking about it. Okay, so let me share my screen. See if this works. Okay, so foods in their purest form. So let's talk about this a little bit. We'll talk about labels in a second. So you guys probably already know this. Most of us who have been on a health journey know that we need to be eating more of the left category versus the right category. And ignore that arrow there. I have no idea why it's popping up on my slides today. But basically, we want to be eating more of the foods on the left versus the foods on the right for all of those reasons that I mentioned already. And that's going to be like your single ingredient proteins, like your chicken, your beef, your eggs, your fish, your all of those types of things, your single ingredient healthy fats, your olive oil, your avocados, things that don't necessarily need a label but may have one, but it's very few ingredients on the label versus, of course, the foods on the right. Not that there's anything wrong with those foods. We don't want to demonize them unless you believe that there are or you have some allergy or sensitivity. However, literally when we talk about just pure facts, they're providing less sustenance, less vitamins, less minerals for your body. And they're not foods that love you back, which is a phrase that I've been saying lately because I heard it from a podcast and I love it so much. Like, we're going to eat those. We might feel good in the moment, but afterwards, we're likely not going to feel as good as if we fill up on foods in the left category. And filling up with more foods in the left side are going to help us get to our weight loss goals that much easier. So those are a couple of things just to like visualize it, what I wanted to show you. When we say whole, clean, unprocessed foods, we are talking about more of those foods on the left than the foods on the right. So just to talk about, like, give you another visual example for this, if you're looking at an ingredient label, what you want to be looking for, if you're looking for like the whole foods, like, is this a whole food? Like, I don't even know what that means. Look at an ingredient label. If you're buying like chicken breast, for an example, one package is going to say just chicken, literally just chicken. The other one you might find, which this is a label, one that I found, is look at all of these ingredients. Just the size of the label alone can tell you so much about like the quality of the food. When we have to add all of those fillers into a food, like, first of all, usually the quality is a little bit lower. Why are we adding these things in there, like modified food starch in chicken, or maltodextrin, which is a preservative and additive in chicken? Like, all of these things, some of them might make sense, but other ones, they are truly just to make it last longer, and it's just sometimes really unnecessary. So that is to give you a visual example of whole, clean, unprocessed foods and And you know what? I'll show you this one as well. This is another example, which I'll bring back in a second for my other illustration. But this is, a Dorito package. If you look at the ingredients here, like look at how long the list is. And one way that I really like to look at it is you look at the ingredients. If you were cooking something yourself, would you grab it out of your cupboard to dump it in? Like I always think of like maltodextrin or like hydrogenated soybean and whatever else this says. Would I literally grab that out of my cupboard to like make something? I would never. And if you're ever not sure, Google the ingredients. The other thing is I always say if our brain can't understand it, our gut isn't going to be able to either. So we're likely going to struggle with digestion as well. So that's the first piece, is making the majority of our foods to fall into that first category. And I already touched on this already, but like why? Why should we care? Overall, we're going to feel so much better. It's going to be so much easier to stick to our health plan and our health goals because we're not going to be craving all of these foods because we're not going to be eating as much of them. Of course, there's also going to be more nutrients in the foods that are on the left category, and of course, the absence of those additives and the preservatives, the refined sugars, is going to be so much more helpful for us to regulate blood sugar levels, minimize inflammation. It's going to help with immunity, help with energy, all of the positive things that we are trying to drive towards for optimal health, in addition to the weight loss as well. So just a few like common additives and preservatives to watch out for, and all of this will be in the resources section too, so you can take a look at it. Partially hydrogenated oils, they are in so many things. So the number one thing, the takeaway from this, your action item, is going to be to start flipping over all of the things you are eating. You don't have to even make any changes or any decisions at this point. Just start literally turning over all of your labels. Every single time I have clients do this, they come back to me and cannot believe what is in the food. Sugar is one that I hear, like I found sugar in everything, sauces, olives, like all sorts of crazy things that I had no idea that there would be sugar in. So that is your number one action item. Start looking for some of these things I'm going to list here. Partially hydrogenated oils, the inflammatory oils, which are going to be like your soybean, your safflower, your peanut oil, like any of those things we don't want in the majority of our foods. So start looking out for those and see what you can swap instead. High fructose corn syrup, that is literally illegal in many places. Of course, not, I don't believe, in the United States. It is in some foods, but not all. I still keep finding it in different foods that I'm grabbing off the shelf. So that is one we want to look out for. MSG also goes by so many other names, monosodium glutamate. That is an additive, a preservative. I actually, as soon as I consume something with MSG, I can tell immediately. I get a very dull headache. I feel kind of nauseous and fuzzy. It's a horrible feeling, and I know immediately when I consume it. There are 40 different forms of this processed additive, so it can be in so many different names. The other thing you can start paying attention to is how do you feel after you eat certain things, and kind of relate that to how do you want to feel, and then question like, do I still want to be eating some of these foods? BHA is one to look out for, sodium nitrate and nitrate, as well as, of course, the food colorings, which you have probably seen so much about that because there are many issues that they can cause with attention and cognitive ability and focus and all of that. So you really want to be looking for caramel colorings, blues, reds, yellows, all of those dyes. They're just really, truly unnecessary to be added to the majority of our foods. Now, of course, I still, like I said, I practice the 80-20 rule. Like if you're going to a birthday party and somebody has cupcakes, I'm not saying like 100%, like I never touch one or that we shouldn't touch them. Just knowing what is in our food and what is doing it to our body can make a huge difference. So, like I said, takeaways here, and I'm going to dive into macronutrient balance in the next one, is really start to look at your labels. Just flip them over, look at your ingredients, and really start questioning what do I want to be consuming on a regular basis. The other thing that you could do is shopping on the outside perimeter of the grocery store. You're likely going to be finding more of your fruits and your vegetables, your clean protein, versus the things that are coming in a box, in a bag, in a package that are going to be more in the center of your grocery store. Okay, so the second thing that I want to cover in this video is going to be all about macronutrients, which is where sometimes we get a little bit more confused. I get more questions on this for sure. And basically what this comes down to is the whole idea if we want to be eating fuel that is the necessary for our body and not overeating. Second is we want to be eating whole, clean, unprocessed foods the majority of the time, like the 80-20. And then third is we want to be balancing our meals and snacks. And that's where macronutrients comes in. So really what we're talking about here, and I'll share this other screen just so you can take a look, but you also have some different cheat sheets and things to look at that are going to come with these lessons that you can reference in case you need visuals or it's helpful for you going forward. Not this slide. Let's see. Not that one, this one. Okay, so literally in the simplest terms, this is what it is. Your meals and your snacks, we want to be combining these macronutrient groups, which are your carbohydrates, which if you're eating fruits and vegetables, they're going to contain fiber, which is so beneficial for weight loss, digestion, blood sugar regulation, all of the things. And you're only going to get fiber from plant-based foods, your fruits, your vegetables, and your unprocessed whole grains. You're combining that with your protein and your healthy fats. Some combination of those three is going to be key for the blood sugar balance. And it's so important to have each of these things for different reasons. So for protein, that is truly like our building blocks of life. Our skin, bones, muscles, hair, nails, hormones, and cartilage are all made of protein. So it's so important that we're replenishing that as we're going through our day-to-day. Now, our protein needs are going to vary based on activity level, but for most of the people I work with, myself, we want to strive for close to like 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight. If we're a little under that, totally fine, especially depending on what your ideal body weight is. But like between 0.8 and 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight, I believe, is the recommendation. And that helps us to really maintain that lean muscle mass as we're losing fat, because that's ideally what we want to lose, not just weight. We want to lose fat. Most of us don't want to lose muscle. So it's really important to incorporate protein. So the second one here, or the third one here, is healthy fats. And of course, healthy fats, like we used to demonize fats. We used to say they were awful. And now we know that they're so important for skin health, for brain health, for proper absorption of vitamins and minerals. There are some vitamins and minerals that actually are absorbed so much better, digested so much better when we consume them with fats. So consuming an adequate amount of fat and just not being scared of it, not being afraid to just put it on as dressings, as sauces, as toppings on your meals is all you're going to really need to do. 1 to 2 tablespoons per meal in addition to cooking oil is all you need to go with, and go with these healthier versions of the fats. Fats are so helpful when it comes to hormones as well, especially as women as we get older. Even right now, like we want to be metabolically healthy, we want our hormones to be healthy, which is the other key to the puzzle, which we're not going to dive so much in on in this course. Is something that you can definitely explore. If you're having an issue or concern with it, that's a little bit more of a customization, but healthy fats are really, really helpful when it comes to hormones, and also keep you full longer as well. And of course, for like cardiovascular, neurological health too. So some really good healthy fats are the ones that are pictured here. Extra virgin olive oil is amazing. Avocados, nuts, seeds, just check your labels. Coconut, olives. There's so many, and they all taste really good too, and they add like a lot of flavor to a meal. So definitely something that you want to balance. Again, if you want to focus on anything here, we want to incorporate our carbohydrates, our proteins, and our healthy fats, some combination of those in every meal or snack that you're having. So the last category here is carbohydrates, which are in the first category. And so now I feel like lately they are what have been demonized, which we don't want to demonize any food or food group, because they all have purposes and they all provide benefits for our body. What we want to focus on more is the types of carbohydrates that we are consuming. We want to stay away more from, was that my other slide? Like the donuts and the bagels and the cookies, the white flour, the white sugar, the majority of the time, totally fine for some of the time. The majority of the time, we don't want to be consuming those on a regular basis, because they are not fuel for our bodies, which is going back to what we talked about earlier. When we're really focusing on self-care and like how we're going to feel our best, like self-preservation, even as all of us are like aging regularly, and there are so many other studies that show like you age better and you're less likely to show aging sooner when you're consuming more of these foods, especially the healthy fats and the proteins and the really good carbohydrates. You're just going to feel so much better overall. You're going to be able to lose weight easier. You're going to be able to keep it off easier. So yeah, these are all super important, but so there's 2 categories of carbohydrates. There's going to be your simple carbohydrates, and those are the ones that are going to give you more of that like blood sugar spike and the immediate crash. Those are going to be like your white sugars, your white flours. They're going to be things like just straight up sweeteners that you would possibly add to your food. Your fruits without fiber. Now, fruits are great, but fruits without fiber, you really want to balance with something that does have fiber or a protein or a healthy fat. Now your complex carbohydrates, and so to back up a bit, your simple carbohydrates, we want to consume less of those. We want to consume more of the complex carbohydrates. And the biggest thing to remember here is those are the ones that have fiber. And I am including my food category breakdown here in the file section as well. So you can look at like what foods fall in each of those categories. But your complex carbohydrates are going to be things like sweet potatoes, your whole grains, if you tolerate those well. They're going to include your cruciferous vegetables, your leafy greens, your blueberries, strawberries, all of the things that do have fiber as well. And those are going to slow down the absorption of sugar in your bloodstream, which is what we want for blood sugar balance. So eating like this, what we've been talking about with kind of these three main concepts overall is really going to, again, just help us feel our best every day, help us work towards those weight loss goals, but also make it easier to maintain them while feeling full, not feeling restricted, and really help our energy stay balanced as well as our blood sugar, which helps us out, like I mentioned before, with continuing towards that fat burning and not that fat storage. It's helping with our cortisol and our hormones, all the other things that are really so key. So, the other, I did actually mention cravings a bit, I think earlier. So we don't need to touch on that again. But okay, so those are the three concepts when it comes to eating for weight loss and optimal health. Again, we want to eat the amount that our body needs. We want to be eating primarily whole, clean, unprocessed foods, and we want to be having balanced meals and plates. Now, if you, of course, have any questions on these or are curious, like how does this look in real life, even after I'm going to talk about your action steps next, please jump into the Facebook group and you can post that at any time. So let's go to the next slide here. So this is a tool that I like to share and actually model most of my meals after. And I truly believe you can eat anywhere using this template. So we're going to be looking at like half of our plate is going to be green, non-starchy vegetables. That can be your leafy greens. It can be your cruciferous greens. And then your quarter of your plate is going to be your clean quality protein source. So like your chicken, your beef, your fish, your eggs, whatever protein source you eat. If you're vegetarian, maybe you're having tofu or legumes. And then the bottom quarter is going to be your starchy veggies, your fruit, or if you tolerate whole unprocessed grains whole unprocessed grains well. And then you're going to add in your healthy fats. Of course, lots and lots of water. So if you follow this template, it makes it really easy to eat anywhere. And then, of course, I did include that food category breakdown for you as well. So is that the last thing I included here? Okay, so I did just want to talk about a few things that you can do going forward to help you out with this and like how to read food labels when it comes to this. So the first thing that I do when I flip over a food label is I go to the ingredients first, number one, because it doesn't matter. So actually, I'll back up a bit. The ingredients is going to be how we determine if it's a whole, clean, unprocessed food, is we're going to go to the ingredients. The nutrition label, which is what most of us are used to looking at when we were younger and growing up and probably only looking at calories or fat, is where we're going to determine if it's a balanced food. So let's start with the ingredient label first. Like say we're trying to figure out if this is a whole unprocessed food, we're going to look at that. Now, this one is a little bit of a mix here because it is technically mostly whole foods. However, as we can see, it has cane sugar, it has brown rice flour, it has raisin paste, honey. So lots of things that are very sweet sounding. So we kind of want to question like, is that something we want to be consuming and what are we consuming it with? In addition to tapioca syrup being the second ingredient. Technically though, this is all whole food ingredients that are combined. So it's a fairly clean food. So it just kind of depends on what your needs are at the time. Like what kind of food are you looking to have? It's certainly not a one ingredient food, but it's kind of in the middle here. But that's the first thing you want to look at is your ingredient label. Now, if you want to see if it's balanced, you want to look at what are you consuming with this food? Is it on its own or is it with something else? Like if you're having this with chicken, you would want to be incorporating, okay, you're getting protein from the chicken as you're doing your calculations here. But let's assume that you're having this on its own. So what we want to do when we look at the label is I really don't pay a whole lot of attention to the calories, honestly. The first thing that I pay attention to is I'm going to look at the sugars. Because if something is off the charts with sugar, remember, we're all about blood sugar balance because that is so beneficial for fat burning versus fat storage, our energy, balancing hormones, all of the things that are really, really key to keep our metabolism firing properly. So I'm going to look at sugar. This one's 9 grams. Usually I shoot for under 10 grams unless it's like a whole fruit product of some sort, because obviously that's going to be much higher, but it's fruit and it's going to have the fiber, so it's helpful. But this is not. So I usually shoot for under 10 grams. So it's 9 grams, so it's kind of okay. The next thing I look at is the protein, the fiber, the carbohydrates, and the fat. And I want to look for like a general balance with all of those. A general balance between the fat, the fiber, and the protein, fat, fiber, protein, and the carbohydrates. Because we want to make sure that the carbohydrates are significantly higher than the fat, fiber, and protein together. That's what we evaluate for blood sugar balance. So as we can see with this one, we have 33 grams of carbohydrates, and then we have 3, 3, and 7. So we're looking at about 13 grams. I know I was going to have to do math on here. I didn't think that through. 13 grams versus, is that correct? Yes, versus 33. So we're a little bit off. So we may be questioning what else are we having throughout the day or what are we having with this to determine if this is a food that we want to eat or not. It's not an awful one going off of the ingredients list or the nutrition label, but it's probably not the best one either. Now, if we compare that to something like Doritos, we're going to look right at that ingredient label. We can tell it's not a whole clean food. So unless we're like, no, I really want a bag of Doritos right now, and I'm not thinking about if this is filling me or not, totally different category, we're probably going to pass on these right away. I know that I likely would. Unless Doritos are literally your favorite food, and you're like, I have a bag of Doritos a week. Totally different. Then we're going to move over to the nutrition label on the side, and we're going to look first at the sugar. Well, there's no sugar here. Great. Then we want to look at the balance of macronutrients. Now, I would have already eliminated this one because of the ingredient label. However, otherwise, we're looking at 10 versus 17. So we're kind of going to be in a fairly similar category as the last one. However, because of the ingredient label, it's not providing us much sustenance, vitamins, minerals, any of the things. We're probably going to pass on it. So I hope that was helpful just to walk through a few nutrition labels for you. Let me see if there's anything else in here that I wanted to show you. I don't think so. I think we're good on this. So I'll stop sharing my screen. All right. So action items going forward is to make a 7-day meal plan for yourself. Make a 7-day meal plan for yourself going off of what I just shared with you. And I've shared lots of tools in the module to do that. I've given you a DIY meal planner. I've given you several of my own sample meal plans. So you can look through those, see which ones you want to keep, see which ones you wouldn't, which meals you like, which ones you don't. But plan your own meal plan based on the amount of fuel that you believe you need for your body, keeping the majority of the foods, 80 to 90% whole, clean, unprocessed foods. And third, going with balanced meals and snacks. So go ahead, create that. Feel free to share it in the Facebook group. Use all the tools that I am providing for you, and let me know if you need any help. See you in the next module.